For spine-chilling true spring break tales, sinister secrets revealed, cursed parties exposed. Emma had always rolled her eyes at the warnings about spring break parties. Just rumors, she'd say, laughing with her friends as they crammed into the car. But that night, the air thickened with something ominous, a whisper of danger only the parents could hear. Emma's voice rang out across the dinner table, shattering the cozy evening with her announcement. She was staying behind for a different kind of party, a gathering at the old water park, a place long avoided and steeped in folk tales of disappearances. Her parents trembled with unease. "You can't be serious," her mom gasped, her hands clenching the fork. Her father's face hardened. "That place is trouble, Emma. The news is full of stories." Their hearts raced with worry, knowing all too well the chilling reports laid bare on nightly news screens, spring breakers vanishing, rumored to have danced with something sinister lurking just out of view. Still, Emma was resolute, her friends chanting her name, rallying her courage. "It's going to be fine," they insisted. But their cheeriness failed to extinguish her parents' instincts, the desperate urgency that something was very wrong. The night grew darker outside, shadows creeping through the neighborhood, where the familiar sounds of laughter became distorted echoes in the parents' minds. Just as fear settled heavily into their chests, a knock at the door jolted them from their spirals. A local sheriff handed over a flyer, his face as blank as a chalkboard. "Just a precaution," he murmured, waving a dismissive hand. "You know, those kids will do what they want." Emma's parents felt their hairs stand on end, the sheriff's casual demeanor grated against their nerves. They needed protection for their daughter, but the police were too wrapped in apathy. Meanwhile, the party at the water park swelled, lights flickering wildly, almost as if the place was alive, thirsty for something more than just fun. Beneath the surface of bubbling laughter and overzealous music, unease unfurled. Animals, from raccoons to feral cats, ripped through the nearby brush with eyes wide as saucers, as if they were warning the girls. "Did you hear about the last spring break?" A girl suddenly chimed in, eyes wide, her breath hitched with terror. "Kids just vanished. One by one, into the water." The thrill that filled the air turned sour, the joyous laughter morphing into an ominous chorus of dread. Sinister figures lurked just beyond the murky gloom, feeding off the thrill and insatiable hunger that beckoned with each flickering light. Back home, Emma's parents frantically scoured the internet, their eyes wide with outright panic as every click exposed more horror stories. A crusade of conspiracy theories surrounded the abandoned park like a fog. "This can't be right," her father muttered, sweat glistening on his forehead. "We should have put our foot down." As the hour passed, Emma felt the weight of something dreadful drawing closer. The night wore on, laughter drowned in anxiety. A friend pulled her away, and just then, a scream sliced through the chaos, sharp, piercing, an echo that shook her to her core. "Is this real?" she thought, shivers racing down her spine. Images of the water's embrace, the local horror stories danced in her mind, clawing at her thoughts. The promise of fun twisted into something dark. Her senses sharpened, every shadow seemed to pulse, the mood of the party shifting dramatically. She turned and saw the figure lingering. Was it just her imagination, or was dread realer than it had ever been? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. As Emma's heart raced, she glanced around, the vibrant night turning into a festival of frights. The friends she once felt invincible with now appeared shadows in the depths of uncertainty. In that moment, she felt an instinct surge within her, to run. The screams had stopped, replaced now by an uneasy silence that settled with a weight she couldn't shake. Just as she turned to escape, a blood-curdling scream erupted, the kind that promised morning might never come for anyone who dared walk closer to the horrors lurking in the water. Would anyone be left to hear the echoes of the past? Emma's breath hitched in her throat. The heavy silence wrapped around her like a coiled snake, squeezing tighter as she scanned the crowd. A group of her friends stood frozen, their faces drained of color, and their eyes wide with terror. Panic clawed at her insides. They were not just watching anymore, they were sensing something much deeper. "Where is Sarah?" Emma shouted, her voice trembling. A moment of frantic searching ensued, but the party's energy morphed into chaos. The faint glow of flickering lights twisted the truth into something nightmarish, shadows shifting and dancing with a life of their own, whispering secrets only they understood. Then, another shriek. This time it was more guttural, primal. It echoed from the direction of the old wave pool, a place they all knew was hazardous, even in daylight. Before she could process what to do, Emma's feet took over, propelling her toward the sound, every instinct urging her to protect her friends. Behind her, shouts erupted as more and more figures spilled into the night, drawn to the disturbance like moths to a flame. As she neared the pool, the air thickened with a rancid smell, a combination of chlorine and something else, something foul. The shallow water glimmered under the bouncing neon lights, but the surface, once inviting, now seemed horrific. The screams faded, replaced by a silence that buzzed like static in her ears. "Emma! Get back!" A voice rang out. It was Jake, his face twisted with panic as he shoved his way through the crowd, reaching for her. But a figure stepped into their path, tall and shrouded in darkness, its body obscured, the edges blending with the night itself. Emma's heart hammered as she took a step back. "Who are you?" she gasped, throat dry. Instead of replying, the figure raised an arm, pointing toward the water. A ripple spread across the surface, distorting the reflections of light. "Get away from the water!" Jake yelled, but it was too late. Emma felt an invisible force clawing at her mind, a whisper drowned in the chaos that beckoned her to come closer, to listen. She shook her head, trying to dispel the unsettling lure, but her legs felt glued to the spot, paralyzing fear gripping her. "Emma, please!" The desperate sound of her name broke through the haze, but it only seemed to strengthen the figure's stare. It was a face, just barely illuminated, twisted and partially subsumed by shadows, yet she recognized a nightmare that seemed familiar. With a sudden rush of clarity, memories of local legends flooded her mind. "This can't be happening," she mumbled, terror clawing at her throat. Suddenly, the waters erupted. The surface twisted violently as something colossal broke through, sending a wave crashing over the edge of the pool. Emma cried out, nearly losing her balance as cold water drenched her. The crowd surged back, faces shifting from drunken revelry to sheer horror. "Run!" Jake shouted, pulling her away, but the ground felt unsteady under their feet. Behind them, the silhouette just grinned wider, encouraging despair as it slunk back into the shadows. As they stumbled backwards toward safety, the party atmosphere changed completely, laughter replaced by shrieks of terror echoing across the park. The lights flickered again, plunging the scene into darkness for a heartbeat too long. When they returned, the figure had vanished, but the unease lingered, heavier than the humid night air. Just then, Emma spotted something gleaming by the edge of the pool, half submerged in the water. A phone. A familiar phone. "No, no." She breathed, dread sinking deeper. She couldn't shake the feeling, nothing would be the same after tonight. "Emma, we have to go." Jake insisted, pulling her, but she couldn't take her eyes off the water. Something was waiting, something hungry. With one last terrified glance, she made her choice. Would they run or face whatever darkness lingered, creeping ever closer? The night stretched before them, a labyrinth of horrors and choices. Would they manage to escape the cursed whims of the water's depths, or would the stories they all laughed at become the truth they dreaded? As echoes of laughter began to dissolve into the night, another scream rang through the air, sharper and nearer this time. Emma froze, paralyzed by the dread of the unknown lurking in the shadows. What if it was a warning? What if something worse was yet to come? Just then, a figure darted past the edge of the water, its laughter chilling, and Emma felt the dreadful question settle heavy in her chest: who was next to vanish into the dark? A sense of dread slithered through Emma's bones as she turned to Jake, their panic mirrored in each other's wide eyes. The laughter from the shadowy figure lingered in her ears, cold and mocking. She could feel the ground beneath her shift, as if the earth itself was conspiring to unearth the buried fears they had all pushed aside. "Did you see that?" Emma hissed, her voice trembling. "What the hell was that?" Jake shook his head, hair matted with rain and sweat. "We need to leave now." No sooner had he spoken when the ground let out a deep rumble, a sound like ancient stone cracking under pressure. Around them, the crowd swirled in a mess of fear, shoving against one another as if their chaotic movement could outrun the impending terror. Suddenly, an ear-splitting scream cut through the air like glass shattering, and a rush of bodies turned towards a force unseen. In the distance, shadows flickered deeper between trees, swallowing what little light remained and twisting it into something grotesque. Emma's heart raced even faster. They were not alone. "Emma!" Someone yelled from the other side of the pool. It was one of her friends, Lila, whose silhouette danced under the flashes of neon before fading back into the chaos. "Please help. It's Sarah." Emma's breath quickened, twisting into knots. "No. Sarah." Panic clawed at her throat, forcing her to step towards the water again. She couldn't leave Sarah, not after everything. "Stay back. Don't go near it." Jake cried out, his voice now hoarse and desperate. "You don't understand." But the words were drowned out by another roar from the wave pool, as if something colossal was thrashing beneath the surface. Emma could see the water rippling violently, and to her horror, it began to bubble as if boiling. The memories of local legends crept back, tainting her thoughts with foul whispers. Something had been awakened. Ignoring Jake's frantic pleas, she ran forward, feeling the water splash around her ankles. "Sarah!" she screamed, her voice breaking. An icy grip closed around her heart. What if it was too late? The surface of the water erupted as a grotesque figure surfaced, glistening in the haze of strobe light. It was a woman, her features distorted, flesh pale and translucent, eyes void of life yet swirling with a malevolent energy. "Help me," she whispered, her voice echoing in a sinister harmony. "No." Emma stumbled back, an overwhelming nausea crashing over her. This was not Sarah, this was something ancient, something evil pretending to be someone familiar. The memories flooded back, each one more nightmarish than the last, tales that lingered, parents whispered to children, warnings of the malevolent spirit tied to these waters. "Emma! Come back!" But Jake's voice faded as the rush of darkness consumed her senses. Behind her, the crowd's screams crescendoed, chaos replacing laughter as they backed away from the pool, abandoning their fun. Emma felt heat rising around her, something lurking in the shadows, watching, waiting. It hadn't just come for the party, it wanted to take a soul. The vision of Sarah flashed in her mind, vivid and wild, an image of her carefree, laughing. "I won't lose you, I promise." Emma shouted into the swirling abyss, but the creature only laughed, eyes glimmering with wicked delight. The figure beckoned with a twisted hand, inviting her to take a step closer. The water surged violently once more, ominous splashes erupting, as Emma felt a force pulling her in a deadly rip current born from deep within the pool. "Emma!" Jake's voice broke through her trance, fierce with urgency. "Get away from there." A split-second decision seized her. Could she act before it was too late? Would she free Sarah or fall into the very depths herself? The realization hit her: the darkness had come, but so had the chance. And then it all shattered with a deafening roar, as the waters churned and the creature lunged forward. Emma screamed, heart racing as the monster broke the surface fully. It emerged, monstrous and impossibly too large, every horrific feature unveiled in the chaotic strobe light. Flecks of foam splattered as it climbed from the depths, shadows dancing wildly around it. Just as darkness enveloped her screams, she whispered, "This can't be the end. In the destabilizing shock, a chilling thought took root in her mind. What if Sarah had already found the soul of another? In that instant, the figure surged forward, and Emma wondered what if saving one meant sacrificing another? The monstrous figure loomed over Emma, its grotesque form illuminated by the strobe lights, each flash revealing more of its disturbing countenance. The laughter mixed with a monstrous growl, creating a cacophony that vibrated through her core. Panic shot through her veins, every instinct screamed at her to flee. But Sarah was out there, somewhere beneath the water's surface. Emma. Jake clawed at the air, eyes wild with terror, his voice strained. Get out. It's not her. The water seethed and frothed, a malevolent force magnetizing around Emma. She could barely comprehend his words over the deafening echoes of the crowd's hysteria. The sounds of splintering screams filled her ears, drowning out her rational thought. The creature inched closer, its elongated shadow swallowing her whole. The eyes of the figure glinted with a terrifying hunger. I just want to be free, it cooed, its voice laced with a sickening sweetness that made Emma's skin crawl. And yet those few words struck something deep within her, a deep-rooted desire to help, to save. Frantically, Emma searched the depths of her mind, piecing together fragmented memories of stories her grandmother once told. Something deep within the water drew her closer, like a moth to a flame. Stop! Jake yelled, lunging forward, his hands gripping Emma's shoulders. His breath was hot against her ear, his gaze unwavering and desperate. You can't save her like this. It's a trick. But the figure gave another beckoning wave, and Emma faltered. The dark tendrils of water erupted into spirals around her legs. It felt alive, wrapping tighter, urging her to approach. Sarah's laughter danced in her mind, bright and carefree, juxtaposed harshly against the horror before her. Sarah! Emma, no! With frantic energy, she pulled away from Jake, tearing herself from his grip. The need to save Sarah eclipsed everything else, the protective nature sparking adrenaline within her. The creature's laughter crescendoed again, echoing in waves. Come to me. We are the same. Just before it lunged again, it locked its hollow eyes onto Emma's, and a vision flooded her mind, darkness creeping over a sunlit park on a spring day, children laughing, the faint echoes of friendship mingling with the pulse of danger, a celebration masked with malevolence. The sharp pang of a second realization stabbed through her heart. No! You're lying! Emma shouted at the being, her voice hoarse but steady. You're not Sarah. Its expression flickered for a moment, resentment boiling beneath its surface as it unveiled a truth so monstrous that Emma shuddered. It was a piece of the soul trapped in the water, feeding off the lost and the desperate. Waves crashed around her, surging with unrestrained chaos. Let her go! She shouted, filled with fury and an unfamiliar resolve. She had to fight back, but how? The waters roared, ferocious and hungry, as if responding to her challenge. The creature paused, tentacles of wave and foam curling ominously above, shadows framing it like a crown of darkness. In that moment of terrifying clarity, Emma remembered a way to break the hold. She began chanting the old words her grandmother whispered on stormy nights, words sewn into her memory with love and fear. Let the light prevail over darkness. As she spoke, light surged from deep within her heart. The water quaked, rippling as bright sparks erupted from her fingers, each word weaving a tapestry of warmth against the cold dread. The creature howled, a sound that vibrated through Emma like a spear of ice. Stop! It screeched, the sinister laughter crackling into terrified rage. But she pressed on, feeling the power swell within her. With each chant, shadows began to retract, daunted by the illumination pouring from Emma. If only she could reach Sarah! A heavy hand slammed into her back, almost shoving her off balance. Emma! Someone yelled, and she turned, vision blurring from tears. Was it Jake? Had he finally joined her? But before she could comprehend, the water roared again, forcing her backward. She stumbled, and the illumination flickered, dark. Tendrils creeping around. Her heart clenched, she could feel it slipping. No! She roared, but soon found herself back in the embrace of darkness, the icy grip pulling her down. Every ounce of force felt minuscule against the wave of despair flooding around her. What was she going to do now? The truth loomed over her. Two souls were entwined in the curse, and time was running out. In that swirling chaos, Emma heard a voice ripple through the noise, chilling her to the bone. You may save one, but at what price? And suddenly, the question hung in the air, a haunting echo that reverberated through the night. Would she choose to embrace the light or be consumed by darkness? In that pivotal moment, Emma faced the ultimate choice, and the shadows encroached. The oppressive darkness enveloped Emma, each heartbeat thudding louder than the last. The blazing light she conjured flickered like a dying star, a feeble beacon fighting against an ocean of despair. Stumbling deeper into the fray, she felt the grip of cold water locking around her torso, squeezing tighter with malicious glee. Emma! Jake's voice sliced through the noise, desperate and panicked. His face was pale under the strobing lights, distorted with terror more palpable than the creature itself. You have to fight. Don't let it pull you under. The water churned with malevolence, as if it had a mind of its own, hungry for her resolve. I can't let it take her. Emma shouted back, her voice filled with frantic determination. Tendrils of darkness writhed around her, pulling away her power with every thrumming pulse of fear. She remembered Sarah's laughter, vibrant with life, and it fueled her. I won't trade one for the other. Emma shouted defiantly, feeling the remnants of her light flicker within her like a candle flickering in a storm. But the figure cackled, its grotesque form looming ever closer, revealing glistening teeth that dripped with something dark and thick. You need to choose. One must remain. It sneered, voice dripping with a sweet poison that coiled around Emma's mind. With every heartbeat, doubt seeped deeper. What if she couldn't save them both? What if, in her desperation, she chose poorly? She wrestled with the shadows, clawing for clarity, the chant slipping from her mind. No, but Jake lunged forward again, breaking through the chaotic waves of laughter and despair. Don't think. Just feel. You know what's right. He reached for her, his own fear etched deep into his expression. In that instant, something shifted. The pull of the water dulled for just a moment, a crack in the darkness that illuminated a path forward. Emma focused on Jake, the steadiness of his gaze carving away her doubts. You're right, she whispered, breathing in the courage that radiated between them like a lifeline. She took a step forward, pushing against the weight of the soulless tendrils. Let the light prevail. She cried, her voice radicalized with newfound strength. The light inside her erupted again, casting a warm glow that fought back against the depths. We are not the same. She shouted at the creature, feeling the pulse of her heartbeat synchronize with the crashing waves. Sarah is alive. You're nothing but a shadow. The creature recoiled, its true form unraveling beneath the brightness like threads of a fraying tapestry. Its hollow eyes narrowed, anger morphing its laughter into a horrific wail that echoed across the arena. But before Emma can press on, the laughter of the crowd darkened. The exhilaration twisted to panic. The hands of the shadows lashed out, grabbing at bystanders, pulling them into the chaotic waters. Emma turned to see horror carve into the faces around her. People were being consumed, swallowed whole as the creature's dark magic spread its threat like a cloak through the night. No! Emma yelled, anguish surging forth. We have to get them out. But with every act of defiance Emma waged, the shadows blossomed, engulfing bodies and souls into the depths, a symphony of despair playing in melody with the creature's rage. As she fought, the realization hit her it wasn't just Sarah in danger. If the creature claimed others too, the curse could grow. Anger surged through Emma, raw and unstoppable. We won't let you take anyone else. An electric spark lit up again, the power within her roaring to life, white-hot and fierce. She launched it forward, a desperate attempt to fend off the darkness now encroaching on everyone they loved. But just then, another sinister whisper drenched her thoughts, a chilling proposition slipping through the chaos. "One life for another, it's a fair trade," it murmured seductively, resonating through the very air itself. The shadows whipped around her, taunting, promising her salvation at a cost. In the eye of the storm, Emma halted, breath catching in her throat. What sacrifice would she be willing to make? Would she risk everything she fought for to save them all? With her heart pounding and her mind racing, the echoes of the crowd grew louder, a chilling blend of fear and longing. Would she dare embrace the darkness to protect her own? The choice loomed larger than ever, the shadows whispering promises too dark to fathom, and Emma stood on the edge of a decision that would change everything. The shadows swirled violently, and Emma felt the weight of every soul around her pressing down, as if they were all holding their breath, waiting for her decision. She was suspended between light and darkness, the air thick with suffocating dread. Jake's face twisted with urgency, his eyes darting around them, absorbing the horror unfolding. "Emma!" he shouted, his voice cracking. "Choose now." The darkness pulsed, alive with malevolence, its very essence laced with a sharp, penetrating fear that gnawed at her mind. Emma's heart raced, blood roaring in her ears. Could she save them all without losing herself? The whispers invaded her mind again, seductive and insistent. "One must remain, you cannot escape the truth." The crowd's cries pierced through the chaos, a cacophony of desperation as shadows snatched at them, friends, family, bystanders caught in the grip of the unknowable. Faces contorted in terror, reaching out for help, yet being pulled into the abyss. The creature reveled in the chaos, its laughter an unholy sound, echoing the very fears they all held. "Emma, please!" Jake pleaded, his grasp perhaps the only tether to sanity in this storm. Whatever it takes. She was standing on a precipice, the abyss yawning wide beneath her. As the creature sneered, its eyes shining like black coals filled with malice, she felt herself teetering. What if she chose poorly? What if the price demanded was too high? "Sarah!" Emma breathed out, the name a whisper, laden with longing and dread. In that moment, the memory of her friend bloomed clearly in her mind, a radiant smile glowing bright amidst the shadows. Emma could still hear the echoes of their laughter, the bonds forged through joy and adventure, but what if it came down to sacrificing that bond itself? A burst of anguish surged through her, and she pushed back against the dark tendrils encroaching on her thoughts. "No!" she shouted defiantly, summoning every ounce of strength. "Maybe I can't save everyone. But I'll fight. I want to trade lives." The darkness recoiled, hissing around her like a wounded serpent. The warm light inside her flickered again, pushing back against the tide. She could feel other energies swirling, the bright spirits of those lost in despair. Temptation prickled at the edges of her resolve. "One life for another," the whisper taunted. The crowd became a twisted silhouette of faces, caught between fear and rage. She saw a mother grasping her child, desperation etched into every line of her face. A flicker of recognition sparked inside Emma, the shared humanity resonating like a drumbeat beneath the chaos. "No!" The shout tore from her throat, raw and pure. "You want to take them." Emma harnessed the light deep within, letting it swell like an ocean wave, fierce and undefinable. It radiated outwards, pushing forward, the energy crackling in the water around her, tendrils sparked against the surge of light, hesitating, flickering like a candle caught in a gust of wind. There was a moment, just a moment, where hope danced amidst despair, but the creature was not finished. Its monstrous smile twisted wider, exposing those dripping teeth, bulging as its form shifted, growing darker and more grotesque. "Do you really think you can fight me, pitiful child?" it shrieked. "You are merely delaying the inevitable." As the shadows coiled around her again, new voices trembled against the howling chaos. They echoed from the corners of her mind, haunting and pained. Each one spoke of betrayal, choices unmade, lives lost. A cascading wave of guilt crashed over her. What if she could have saved someone but chose wrong? The light inside Emma pulsed wildly, threatening to extinguish, chaos begging to be released. Must it truly come down to sacrifice? She thought bitterly. Then she saw a flicker of a figure in the darkness, a shape that looked familiar. The shadows were writhing around her, shifting like smoke and flesh, and through it all she caught sight of Sarah, or rather, a distorted reflection of her, eyes wide with fear. Emma, it was an echoing whisper, a plea wrapped in sorrow. With each sway of the shadows, the weight of her decision pressed heavily. This wasn't merely a choice for survival anymore, it was a reckoning she never wanted. As Emma reached for Sarah's figure within the chaos, uncertainty clawed at her heart. Could it truly be her friend? Or was it another cruel trick? The light wavered and faded, leaving Emma surrounded by the dark. "Jake!" she cried out, uncertainty bleeding into despair. "What am I meant to do?" But Jake was now caught in the undertow himself, the shadows closing in, his hands slipping through the darkness as he cried out in horror. The wretched laughter echoed back. Would they all fall? And then, a single clear thought cut through a bloody crimson line between love and sacrifice. Was it worth it? As the darkness lunged forward, she clenched her fists, preparing for the storm. A cloud of despair loomed over her, pulse racing, knowing that whatever she decided next it would change everything. The creature chuckled with deep satisfaction. The shadows will always claim what's dear to you. Are you ready to pay the price? The moment of reckoning hung in the air, chilling and terrible, as the darkness promised to reveal its true form, ready to consume all they held dear. The darkness surged, and Emma felt a chill slicing through her resolve. The twisted specter loomed larger, its laughter morphing into a deafening roar that rattled the very air. The shadows coiled at her feet like serpents, slithering closer, whispering the secrets of a past she wasn't ready to confront. Choose or lose them all. The creature shrieked, the ground trembling beneath her as if the very earth soured at its words. Emma's heart thundered in her chest. The faces of the crowd blurred together, their mouths moving in silent screams, hands outstretched in desperate need. She felt their fear seep into her bones, the palpable horror curling around her like a shroud. Yet amidst the panic, from the shadows emerged a guttural voice, clear and commanding. "Emma, you have the power." Power? To save them? Emma wrestled with the thought. The warmth inside her flared again, a flicker against the encroaching darkness. If she could wield it, if only for a moment, perhaps she could break the creature's grasp. But how? Her mind raced, caught in the crossfire of desperation and dread. It's a trap. Jake's voice reverberated, pulling her from the abyss of her own panic. His eyes were wide, stark with urgency. Don't listen to it. It will twist your choice. The shadows swirled around them, hungry and insatiable. Emma felt herself being pulled back, a force smarter and more cunning than she had imagined, as if the creature watched her, hungry for her doubt. Panic coursed through her veins like icy water. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to escape this nightmare, but where would she run? Here, in the heart of chaos? Or towards the shadows that claimed those she loved? In that moment, clarity pierced through the confusion. I can't feel the light when I'm afraid, Emma thought, understanding the key she had overlooked. Fear fed the darkness, allowing it to thrive. If only she could embrace the pain, the loss, the memories without shying from them, perhaps she could fight back. Think of Sarah. The voice in her head echoed, blood pounding in her ears. Think of what truly matters. Emma closed her eyes, holding her breath against the dread that threatened to suffocate her. Images flashed before her: Sarah laughing, sunlight captured in a carefree moment, best friends sharing secrets under the stars. It was a bond woven together by trust and loyalty, something she refused to let the shadows destroy. Light! She whispered urgently, her voice steadying against the winds of chaos. I choose the light. As if summoned by her determination, the brilliant light within surged forth, crackling like electric currents filled with life. The darkness recoiled violently, hissing like a wounded beast, revealing a grotesque visage contorted with rage. The faces of the crowd illuminated, hope flickering in their eyes as the shadows around them began to falter. Emma felt the warmth of bravado bloom within, pulling her further into the fight. She opened her eyes to see Jake ensnared, the tendrils of shadow wrapping tightly around his wrists, pulling him toward the seething, ravenous maw of terror lurking behind the darkness. "Emma! Help!" His cry echoed, a visceral tear pulling at her heart. The creature pivoted, delighting in Jake's captivity, its gaping mouth yawning wide, revealing rows of jagged teeth glistening like knives. With a surge of adrenaline, Emma reached toward Jake, their fingers grazing but just out of reach. "You want to take him?" she shouted. "No!" Jake yelled back, the shadows tightening their grip. "It's too late, Emma. You can't save us both." But she wouldn't give up. Even if the shadows consumed her, she would fight back for every heart that beat for hope. The brilliant light spiraled out from her, a lighthouse in the tempest. Around her, shadows flickered, hesitant, battling against the burgeoning radiance. "No!" the creature howled. "You cannot escape what you owe." She felt the grip of dread in her stomach tighten, the implications of its words gnawing at her resolve. Was there truly a debt to be paid? What was she willing to lose, as the shadows grew? Dim, flickering like an old film reel, Emma reached her other hand toward Jake, attempting to pull him back. The creature let out one final scream, its form twisting and contorting, revealing something monstrous within, something that clawed for escape yet needed to consume. Then, in that second of terror and triumph, a blinding flash engulfed the darkness. Would light finally conquer the shadows, or would the monstrous depths drag her and every soul they cherished into eternal oblivion? The echoes of desperate cries lingered, suspended in the air thick with impending doom, as the creature's final laughter rang out, chilling Emma deeper than she'd ever thought possible. "Let us see how strong your light truly is." It was a challenge, a promise that the darkness was merely biding its time. As the flash subsided, a newfound silence blanketed the chaos, thick with uncertainty and a fate yet unwritten. What had she unleashed? Emma braced herself, knowing that the darkest shadows were still lurking. Would the battle just be beginning? The blinding flash receded, leaving a dim glow lingering around Emma, like the aftertaste of a bitter pill. Emma's heart pounded against her ribs. The silence felt heavy, oppressive, yet buoyed by the fleeting hope that glimmered like a distant star. She peered into the space where darkness had roamed, its edges curling back like a frightened beast retreating from light. But the sense of relief was sharp and fleeting, like a breath of fresh air taken deep before plunging back into the water. The crowd stood still, faces white and eyes wide, still grasping each other as though the fabric of their reality was fraying at the seams. Did it work? Jake's voice was a low rasp, hoarse from the scream that had echoed in his fear. He looked around, the shadows at his wrists dissipating, but fear still lingered in the air, palpable and heavy. Emma's blood ran cold. "I don't know," she admitted, scanning the surroundings. "But we need to stick together." "Where's the creature?" As if summoned by her thoughts, a slow, ominous growl reverberated from the ground beneath them. The earth trembled slightly, a pulse that rippled with malevolence. All eyes turned to watch the shadows that had retreated begin to coalesce again, this time not as a mass, but as writhing shapes, merging into forms that mocked the very essence of their human fears. "Look out!" Jake yelled, pulling Emma behind him. A towering figure emerged from the swirling dark, an amorphous horror festooned with glistening eyes that seemed to pulse with hunger and despair. The creature wailed, an inhuman sound that struck deep, resonating within. It felt like cold fingers tracing down Emma's spine, wrapping tighter around her mind, tugging at memories that she dared not confront, her failures, her regrets, everything she had ever feared losing. "Fight it, Emma!" a voice urged from deep within. It was stronger now, breaking through the tremors of doubt. "You know how." With a deep breath, Emma focused on the warmth inside, igniting the flicker of light she had summoned before. She pulled it up to her chest with both hands, feeling it swell and pulsate like a heartbeat in the dark. The creature recoiled, shrieking as the light sliced through the shadow, a beam of intensity born from her will. "Get away from us!" Emma shouted, feeling the light radiate outwards, pushing against the oppressive gloom. She felt strength in her voice, and the very air around them shifted, charged with energy. But the creature howled, a sinister laughter mixing with its cries of rage. "You think you can hide from the past?" It mocked, shapes twisting and contorting in grotesque shapes, conjuring images of pain entwined with darkness. Faces glimmered in the shadows, lost friends, broken promises, moments of betrayal. Emma recoiled, fighting against the memories wrestling for attention. "No, I won't give in." She gritted her teeth, breathing deeply, drawing strength from every heart that had ever stood by her. Jake was at her side, his face determined, even as he struggled against the creeping shadows threatening him. "Together, Emma. Whatever it is, we're stronger." The creature snarled, its form quaking with rage. "You see? You are nothing without your debts. You've lost more than you know, and you will lose everything you love. You can't run from what you owe." Emma's resolve faltered for just a moment, her thoughts circling back to all she feared, the losses that had piled up like stones in her chest. But then the faces of those she loved flashed through her mind, steering her towards the light again. The warmth flared, a blinding arc igniting the shadows around them, illuminating the darkness in a furious battle of wills. "Light!" she cried, pulling every ounce of courage from the depths of her being. "I choose the light." The shadows screeched, clawing at the flickering brilliance, but as the light pulsed, they crumbled, wild and furious. It wasn't enough, though. The creature surged forward, desperate to reclaim its grip. Emma felt a sudden chill wash over her heart, a pang of ice in her gut as she realized. "We can't hold it back much longer. We need to find its weakness." "Focus, Emma," Jake urged, his voice a steady anchor amidst the storm. "Find the heart of that darkness." But the creature twisted, its grotesque form distorting into the shadows, screaming with fury. "You can search, but will you find what it requires? You will sacrifice again, and blood will be on your hands." Blood? The word struck a chord deep within. Emma gasped, the realization sinking into her veins. "What must we do?" Emma breathed, feeling the weight of fate settle upon her shoulders as the shadows writhed ceaselessly, but the creature was laughing still, mocking, taunting. "Let us see how far those chains of choice can stretch." As darkness and light battled for control, a question echoed in the depths of her mind. What would she truly sacrifice to silence the darkness forever? The monster's laughter rang sharper, and confusion spun like a web. Emma braced herself, clinging to the flicker of light, hoping it was strong enough for the task ahead. The creature's laughter echoed through the dark, twisting around them like a shroud. Emma felt its weight pressing down, suffocating. She could see the fear in the crowd's faces, their eyes darting back and forth, searching for protection that wasn't there. "Think, Emma. What does it need?" Jake shouted, his voice strained as he stood resolutely by her side, trying to shield her from the encroaching shadows. It was getting harder to breathe. The light she summoned flickered as darkness coiled around it, threatening to snuff it out. Emma's palms felt slick with sweat, the warmth fading beneath the icy grip of dread. "Sacrifice," she murmured, the word a chilling whisper. Images flashed behind her eyes, everyone she loved, each vibrant memory colored with laughter, now twisted into taunts from the shadows. The creature relished in her uncertainty, its eyes glimmering with anticipation. "You'll be forced to choose, child. The cost will be too high." It howled, the sound vibrating through her bones, as if it were speaking directly into her soul. "I won't sacrifice anyone." Emma yelled back, shaking her head violently. "I won't." But doubt gnawed at her. Did she have any choice? What if the darkness snatched away everything she held dear, piece by piece, until only despair remained? With each second, she felt the light waning, the creature's dark tendrils creeping further, seeping into her thoughts. "Not yet, Emma," Jake urged, grabbing her arm, grounding her in the moment. "We need to find its heart. Focus. We're running out of time," she gasped, fighting against the encroaching fear. Heart pounding, she and Jake began to step forward, searching desperately for the source of this nightmare. Together, they combed through the shadows, eyes squinting against the dimness. "Look!" He pointed, eyes wide with burgeoning hope. There, at the center of the roiling darkness was a pulsating core, like a blackened heart pumping shadows through the creature's tendrils. It thrummed beneath the surface, sending waves of pure malice rippling outward. "That's it. That's where we need to strike." But the creature sensed their focus, shifting and twisting furiously. The shadows arose, more aggressive now, coiling around them like serpents aiming to ensnare. Emma could feel the weight of despair from the crowd, their eyes shifting in heated panic. "Don't let it in," Jake shouted, a catch of breath hitching in his voice. Emma felt the warmth she conjured flicker again, weak against the onslaught of memories and fear cascading toward her. Together. She reached out, clutching Jake's hand, feeling the heat of his determination igniting a spark in her. They pushed forward, eyes locked on the creature's heart, summoning all of their will and love. But shadow after shadow lashed out at them, hungry and despairing, threatening to drown them beneath despair's tide. Desperate, Emma drew deep within herself. She envisioned every moment filled with laughter, the warmth of a hand held, the joy of the mundane. Each recollection charged the flicker of light at her chest, growing stronger. "Now!" she cried, feeling it surge through her, pouring those memories into the light, a blinding flash of hope aimed straight for Shadow's heart. The creature wailed, thrashing as the beam of light surged forward, crashing against the pulsing darkness. The entire world felt suspended as the darkness and light clashed, a cacophony of cries and laughter melding into a symphony. But as the dazzling radiance pierced through, Emma felt an echo of the creature's last words, twisting around her mind in soft insidious tones. "You think love conquers all? You'll see the truth soon enough." In that final moment, with the light bursting forth, a cold dread settled back into Emma's chest. Doubt remained, gnawing at the edges of her resolve. Was the sacrifice necessary? And as the shadows began to recede, a question loomed: would the victory come at a cost too dear? The radiance soared, but stark darkness still loomed, teasing with tantalizing whispers. Something lingered, watching, waiting for its moment. What? Had they awakened? Emma's heart raced as the dazzling light enveloped the creature, erupting like fireworks against the night sky. Shadows recoiled, hissing as they twisted and writhed, yet deep within Emma's heart resided a flicker of fear. How much darkness had they bargained against? "Hold on," Jake urged, digging his fingers into Emma's forearm as they pushed through the chaos. "We've got to stay steady." The light pulsed as they surged toward the heart of shadows, but the ground shifted beneath them, a rumble that rivaled a storm. The creature writhed violently, its eyes burning with fury. "You think you can extinguish my depths with mere light?" it screeched, rage dripping from its voice. "You will drown in your own hope." Emma shivered at its words, sensing the truth woven in deception. Panic clawed at her throat, she could almost feel the weight of those choices creeping closer. "Stick with me," she gasped, desperation thinning her breath. With a fierce focus, they pressed on, memories of laughter igniting the fire within her. Every moment shared surged through her veins: long summer days, joy-spiked laughter, and warm embraces. But the creature's laughter slithered in, whispering promises and taunts. "What will your love cost you?" it mocked. "Shut up," Emma screamed, fury surging as she felt the light within brighten in response to her anger. "You don't get to twist my feelings." But darkness churned, rising higher and higher. The ground beneath felt no longer solid, reality swirling. Emma could see faces in the shadows, friends and allies lost to despair, and guilt twisted deeply within her. Emma! Don't lose focus! Jake shouted. As she turned back toward Jake, she realized her grip on the light was faltering, her hope dimming in the face of their despair. I can't hold it. Concentrate. You're stronger than this. He urged, his voice firm yet dripping with urgency. We're in this together. Remember why we fight. And suddenly, clarity pierced through the fog of dread. The bond between them was undeniable, stronger than whatever threat this creature wielded. Together! Emma shouted, forcing the radiance to brighten, illuminating their path forward. They knew what they had to do, face the darkness. They had to confront not only the creature but everything it claimed to be an embodiment of all their fears. Let us heal what's broken. With a swift, determined motion, she extended her arms toward the pulsing heart of shadow. Emma, now! Jake echoed, their energies intertwining. Light surged, crackling like thunder, emanating tentacles that entwined with twisting darkness, striking a balance between fear and love. The two forces collided, then exploded into a frenzy of energy. Emma twisted on the spot, channeling every ounce of love and hope into the radiant sphere. The light burst outward, catching shadows in a blinding halo. The creature howled, a sound that shredded through the air, reverberating with pain. You can't win, weakling. You will learn to regret it. Not today. Emma yelled, pushing the light into the heart of darkness, forcing shadows to splinter and scatter. This ends now. Enough. The creature bellowed, its twisted form convulsing, trying to escape but held in place by the radiance. The pulsating mass weakened, collapsing under a wave of light that obliterated the din of despair. As darkness unraveled, a blinding clarity emerged, and then the air shifted. A distinct silence fell upon the surroundings, vibrating like a live wire. Did it work? Jake whispered, his voice trembling against the backdrop of stillness. The ominous creature began to dissipate, sucked into an abyss of its own making, and hope stirred delicately in the air. Shadows receded as the night brightened, the weights of foreboding lifted, revealing the familiar sights of the water park landscape. Emma gasped, feeling the pain in her chest dissolve. We did it, but her voice cracked with uncertainty. Look! Jake pointed, and Emma turned to see the first glimmers of dawn arising on the horizon, hues of orange and pink spilling across the sky, as if lighting a new path. Bright shapes floated from the dissipating darkness, ghostly shadows of those once trapped, their faces bearing smiles of gratitude. You saved us! They echoed, their laughter ringing bright and joyous. Emma stumbled back, feeling tears streaming down her cheeks. She hadn't lost anyone after all, her friends were here, freed from the depths. But just as relief flooded them, a single echo crested from the fading shadow, darkly taunting. You may have won, but the price is never truly forgotten. With that unsettling thought, the shadows dissolved completely, but the chill lingered in the air, an unanswered echo that rolled across the crescent sky to remind her that this battle may have been won, yet the war was far from over. Jake grasped her hand tightly, energy thrumming through their connection. We need to watch for the signs. They're always lurking. Absolutely, she breathed, a heavy weight settling in her chest. But a steely resolve blossomed within her, a growing strength forged in the fire of fear. Turning to face the horizon, she felt a determined wave crash down, a new beginning in their fight against fear, against the shadows seeking to swallow their light. Together, they would embrace the dawn. Let whatever lies ahead come at us, she whispered fiercely. We're ready. And with that, they stepped forward into the rising sun, a burst of light against a fresh canvas, prepared to uncover both the joy and the shadows waiting ahead. Now, I need you all to do me a favor. If you love the conclusion, subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ride. Don't wait even one more second to share this with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans know how important it is to support the channel through these actions. Let's keep this community growing strong.